Balak started that, every year when you meet up with your auditors and you sit down to discuss at some point in time with them, they will tell you of a problem A, which you never knew about, and that you have a certain problem for a particular decision. And B, when they explain it to you and tell you a way forward, you don't understand it. But today is a totally different thing altogether. Why? Because today, at this point in time, we have got 403 people who are attending the webinar, okay, which clearly shows that you're 100% aware that there are issues to be addressed, and we are looking for a way forward in the days to come. So the first thing has been addressed, that today people know, and there's awareness across within Kerala and across the country that there is a problem, there are issues to be addressed, and it's not the end of the world. Problems come, problems go, and they will be tackled. As with COVID, we don't have a vaccine at this point in time. People are working on it, and we'll have a vaccine. Same as with FCRA. Remember, FCRA came in 1976, so it's a very old act, and it has gone through different changes over the year. And similarly, there are changes will take place in the Income Tax Act. One of the changes, that one sector that is always facing amendments is the social sector, the NGO sector. Every year, whether it's the Income Tax Act, whether it's an FCRA, whether a form is changed or lines are amended, but it happens all the time. And this September, we have seen what happened when the bill was introduced in Lok Sabha on that Sunday. And I sent out messages at that point in time. And people asked me, what do you expect? I mean, how quickly will it be done? Will we get time to 31st March? I said, no. Sunday introduced in Parliament, Monday approved by Lok Sabha, Tuesday moved in Rajya Sabha, Wednesday there was a bit of a scuffle there, so it couldn't go through. Thursday approved by Rajya Sabha. We were expecting it to be notified by Thursday, but it happened on 29th. So that's how it came about. And there are different amendments which have come across FCRA and income tax this year. Very serious amendments which have come in place in the Tax Act in February. But let's take to the FCRA aspect. If you have any problems, any questions to raise while I'm speaking, please be free to raise you can put it on the chat, or you can raise your hand and you can come in straight away. We won't wait for questions towards the end. Let's take it because it is something that will come up in your mind as we go through. And I can repeat it also if you're not able to get it at one point in time. So what is the first amendment? Let's look at it. The one critical amendment is, I just want a confirmation that, can you hear me clearly? Is it absolutely audible? So if that confirmation comes in from the moderator, that will be wonderful. But what's the amendment? The amendment is that you have to open a bank account, everybody, in the State Bank of India, Parliament Street, what is Sansad Marg. Logistically, it is just about 2 or 3 kilometers from the Prime Minister's office and 2 or 3 kilometers from the Home Ministry. So it's very close and it's monitored very closely. Within State Bank of India and Sansad Marg, they have set up a separate cell on the first floor, which will handle only FCRA matters. And they've divided that cell into 3 sections: societies, trust in Section 8, or the old Section 25 companies. And it will be administered from there. Reporting to ministry in any case will be on a day-to-day basis. Today also, every bank in the country reports on foreign remittances that come in on a day-to-day basis. It's a requirement. Within 24 hours, the disclosure goes to Ministry of Home Affairs. So that's happening even now before the amendment. The only change is now that will happen that the account for everybody will be in State Bank of India, Parliament Street. This bank account will be a current account. It will not be a savings bank account. And this is one thing I would like to mention. We've been telling our clients for the last 3-4 years to move away from savings bank accounts and come into current accounts, because that is the way forward. In the current account, there will be no charges for money coming in from the country. That means there will be no bank charges. That's what they have said. And when you transfer money from this designated FCRA account to the other utilization accounts, to the other FCRA accounts that you have, there will be no bank charges. So that will be free of cost. Now, to open the account with State Bank of India, Sansad Marg, you don't have to come to Delhi. Nobody needs to come to Delhi. Nobody needs to visit the branch. No one. All your dealing will be with State Bank of India, a branch which is close to your office, or any branch in your city or town which you are comfortable. Of a State Bank of India. So any branch in the town or city where you are of State Bank of India, you will deal with them. Now, one issue, and to facilitate this process, what the government has said is that every authorized signatory, now I'm making a distinction between authorized signatory and governing body member. They're two different. Obviously, an authorized signatory could be a governing body, but need not be also. Every signatory of the FCRA bank account in Delhi will have to have a savings bank account with State Bank of India in the location where he or she is. Everyone will have to have, every authorized signatory will have to have a savings bank account with State Bank of India at the location where he or she is residing or located, whatever is convenient with you. Now, what is the rationale with this? It got to do with the organization. The rationale is that once you have an account, if you already have a bank account with State Bank of India, very good. But if you don't have, then you'll have to open an account. The rationale for this is that once you open the bank account, the entire KYC compliance is the responsibility of that particular State Bank of India branch. Once the account is opened, you will get a CIF, which is the consumer number, and that consumer number will be incorporated in your application for opening the State Bank of India current account for the organization, whether it's a society or it's a trust or it's a Section 8 company. So that will facilitate the process that State Bank of India Parliament Street will only then access that number. It will have the authorized signatory's signature with them. They'll have the full details and they can open the account very easily. Now, what do you need to have for opening a savings bank account? You'll have to have your Aadhaar card, you'll have to have your PAN card, and facilitate the go through filling up the forms. We have already given the forms for opening State Bank of India, given it to Father Jason, and it can be forwarded to each of you via email. When you open the current account for the organization, you'll have to give an email ID. That email, my suggestion would be, email ID should be the email ID which is already registered with the MHA FCRA authorities, because FCRA will communicate with you via that email ID, and this bank will also communicate with you through the email ID. I only hope that the email ID is not of a person, of an individual. It should be of the organization. Why do I say that? Because each of you, we get transferred. After 3 years, 2 years, 6 years, 5 years, you get transferred. And when you get transferred, then that creates problems, because if the email ID is a personal email ID, then the next person does not have access to the password, doesn't have access to the user account, and there are problems. I have come across very big problems with this email ID from our clients across who have come to us, is for the simple reason that they don't have the user ID, the password, whatever it is, and that has created problems. So just make sure that you have a specified email ID, which is of the organization, and you can give that to State Bank of India in Parliament Street. Okay, and you'll be able to operate with that. Now, everyone who is going to be an authorized signatory, hence will have the Aadhaar card. Now, when you open the bank account, what will you do? You'll go to the nearest State Bank of India office. You don't have to open an account there. No. You will give them the documents. That is the bank opening form for the current account, the resolution of your trust, society, or company, the specimen signatures, all those cards, Aadhaar card, PAN card, all that will be given. And they will verify the documents which you're handing over to them. And after they are satisfied with the documents, if they find it in order, they will scan these documents and send it to State Bank of India, Sansad Marg in Delhi. On the basis of these scanned documents, Sansad Marg, New Delhi will open the bank account, a current account. They will send an email to this branch which has forwarded the documents, and an email to you directly, which has been given by you to them. So they will use only email ID. They will then get the hard copies of these documents from the branch, but that you are not involved in. The branch will courier the documents to Sansad Marg in Delhi, and they will have the record with them, which is the hard copy. But the entire activity will be done on email and on the scanned documents. They will open, they'll give you the bank account. Now, this account will be opened with a zero balance. Okay, it will start with a zero balance. Once you have started it with the zero balance, then of course you will have to maintain that minimum balance requirements of a current account. I think it's 50,000 State Bank of India. But that's a subsequent issue. Opening the account is with zero balance. So that's not a problem. So no money to be deposited to open the account. Okay. If there are any questions coming up at this point in time, you're most welcome to put it on the chat or put up your hand. No problem. Now, what happens after this? All money. Now, what has happened on the 13th of October, the government brought out a public notice. Before that, you could not receive any money after the 29th of September into your existing designated bank account. But on 13th of October, they came out with a public notice. Why that public notice? They have said that you can continue to receive foreign contribution into your existing approved designated FCRA bank account from abroad. No transfers. Okay. Money can come directly from abroad into your account, and you can continue to receive this money till you open the account with State Bank of India or 31st March 2021, whichever is earlier. So the last date for opening the bank account is 31st March 2021, but I'll just tell you that's more than theory. It has to be much earlier. So open the State Bank of India account at the earliest, it'll help you. Then what they say is that all your money, which is in the, now this bank account in New Delhi is being referred to in the public notice as the FCRA account. And your existing designated FCRA account, which is approved by the renewal or when you got registered, that is being called as the other FCRA account. So you'll have an FCRA account and the other FCRA account. This other FCRA account, which is your designated account, can be linked. You have the option to link it with the State Bank of India in Parliament Street. So when the linking is done, then movement of money will be very simple. That means money from State Bank of India will come into the designated, which is the other FCRA account, which will now be called the other FCRA account, and you will continue to function from there. Okay. There's a question, minimum balance will be FC money? Yes, it will be FC money. But that's in future, after you get the money, not to open the account. To open the account, there's no money required. Okay. So we have the other FCRA account, which will be linked to your existing account. You could also, which I would always suggest to you, is that open another current account with State Bank of India. Because I'm assuming, I mean, let us say you have your FCRA designated bank account with Federal Bank, Indian Bank, South Indian Bank, or any other bank. That could create a little bit of a problem. But if you have another designated account with State Bank of India, it will just facilitate a process. But that's again just an opinion. It's not required. The requirement is only FCRA account in Delhi. All the money which is with you at this point in time, when you open the State Bank of India account, all money, that means all your fixed deposits, whatever money is lying in the designated bank account, will then be remitted to the State Bank of India in Parliament Street. Now, this is not there in the rules. This is not there in the guidance. This is what we have learned with our discussions internally with State Bank of India, and that's what is going to happen. Is it feasible to convert existing other FCRA account into utilization account? The public notice says it will be the other FCRA account. Okay. So why do I say you have to encash fixed deposit? You can argue and say that my fixed deposits, I will lose interest because it's a premature encashment. Why can't I carry on? The problem there is that the money to come into State Bank of India, Sansad Marg, has to be foreign money. And how will State Bank of India know it's foreign money? In future, whatever money comes from abroad will be foreign money. I mean, they'll know the source. But what happens to this existing money? So the existing money, the fixed deposits, they will not know that it's FC money, so they will not give you credit. If they don't give you credit, then there is a problem. Then there's an issue which will not be very easy to solve. So what they're saying is, encash all fixed deposits, get the interest into your existing designated bank account, and transfer the entire money in one go to State Bank of India, New Delhi. So your account, wherever you're located, your existing designated bank account will then have a zero balance. So you'll be starting like afresh. Okay. So encash the fixed deposits, the interest will get credited into that bank account because your existing banker knows that the fixed deposits were made from that account. So they will give you credit. The credit will come. Otherwise, nobody will know where the credit is going to come from. And then transfer that money to State Bank of India upfront. So you have a zero balance. Now, what happens when you open what happens when the bank account is opened in New Delhi? Remember, you have to apply to ministry for change in bank account and FCA. That's the rule. Okay, that's the rule. So in discussions, well, what they've said, State Bank of India said, you will be able to immediately start using the State Bank of India, but you will still have to write to ministry, FCRA division, intimating the new bank account, and it will be taken on record. You won't have to seek permission, but you'll have to intimate. Now, this, God willing, should get clarified when the rules come. As on date, as I speak just now, the rules are not yet ready. They are under compilation. There are various things happening, various meetings happening. But the general feeling is that whether the government has really not agreed or not taken cognizance of the fact that the bank account should be automatically updated in the record. So that is not yet happened as such. If it happens in the rules when it comes up, that will be an excellent thing. But otherwise, you will have to intimate ministry with the new bank account number. Now, the problem that arises, these are one of those form number 6s, A, B, C, D, E that have to be done. The problem in these form 6s that happens is the moment you upload, that particular form gets locked. So it gets locked and it will not get opened. You cannot make a change till it gets opened. And it doesn't get opened till they clear it. And nobody knows when it will be cleared. So if you are planning to open utilization bank accounts close to you, besides your existing designated bank account, like I said, a State Bank of India account locally, then do that simultaneously. So in one go, you will upload the new account at New Delhi and this other utilization bank account with State Bank of India. Because then intimation will go to ministry. You will have a receipt for that. Okay, because otherwise it will not happen. Now, the issue is, they said 31st March. That's the outer date. Or State Bank of India account being opened, whichever date is earlier. So can I wait till February? Can I wait till March to open the bank account? In reality, no. 95% of the NGOs were renewed in May 2016. So you have to make a renewal application within 6 months prior to that May 21, which means that the new application will have to go by December or January at the most. 31st January is the latest date by which your application for renewal of FCRA will have to be done. When you make the new application for FCRA, you have to give the new State Bank of India bank account. So we are really not looking at 31st of March. We are looking at an outer limit of 31st of January for opening the bank account. Okay. There's the question that can I receive FC after 29th of September? Yes, you can into the existing bank account till you open the new bank account. Do we have to follow the same procedure for opening joint account? I don't see how you can have a joint account because the FCRA account will always be in the name of the institution. So there's no joint holding there. Okay, the nearest SBI by asking to open a utilization account also there as the present FC account is with them. Is it a need? It's not required. That's Jesse Thomas. You don't need to open another account. But every authorized signatory needs to open the bank account. So that is regarding the time limit. So we are looking at 31st of January for opening the new bank accounts at the latest date, maybe a little earlier also, because the renewal application has to be done. What the ministry is saying now is that when the renewal will happen, renewal is not going to happen this time on an automatic basis. That is not going to. It didn't happen even last time on an automatic basis. It was done case-to-case basis, but a number of things got done quite quickly. This time, every authorized signatory, every governing body member will be verified by intelligence. So IB will visit every governing body member, whoever is there, who's going to be mentioned in your renewal application. Now, why am I telling you that at this point in time? Because it's linked to your opening of a new bank account. This also means, because when you open a new bank account, they're going to ask you for the governing body list. Okay. And you have to certify the governing body list. The governing body members who you're going to disclose at this point in time you must ensure that they are not going to get transferred outside the country. I mean, if somebody is going to get transferred to Rome, Italy, Venezuela, wherever it is, other place, that person should not be on the governing body, because the IB will come physically to meet each person individually, no matter how much time it takes. Okay, so if the person is outside the country, your FCRA number is not going to be renewed. That's a clear case. That is not going to happen. Secondly, in this governing body list which you give to State Bank of India, make sure that no member on that governing body has a case against him or her. If there is any case, I'm not talking of a judgment against, I'm talking of a case in any court, whether it's a labor court or any, no person on the governing body must have a case against him or her. If there is a case against him or her, again, your FCRA will not be reviewed. That's a strict no. It's not there in the rules, let me tell you. It's not there. It's there in the form. If you have a look at the renewal form, it's there. You have to make a disclosure of cases. Okay, so that needs to be done. So make sure that whoever you give, when you open this new bank account, two critical things on governing body, that person is going to remain in the country till 31st March 2022. I'm not saying 2021. 31st March 2022. There is a possibility of a delay in renewal applications or granting renewal. There's a definite possibility, and it could take any amount of time. So you will have to make sure no governing body member goes out of the country for a long period of time. 1 week, 10 days is fine. That's not an issue at all. But come back to country. Secondly, no cases against any governing body member. Okay. What is the process of transferring fund from NDM to existing bank account? That's a bank transfer. Transfer from your FCRA account to the other FCRA account will be by a bank transfer. Can we change the governing body? I mean, that's from Subshena. Well, yes, you can change the governing body at this time. Now, just remember, I think 90% of us had filed Form 6E in July 2019, advising changes in the governing body. Okay. And if you go onto the site, you will find that the site is locked, that form is locked, and you can't make any changes. And it says under process. This is going to remain so. So when you make the governing, when you make the changes, please do it now. But after you've opened this bank account, after you have opened this, after you've given the governing body list to this, to the bank here, then please don't change your governing body members. Because if you make changes, I understand that in our religious setup, transfers take place in May, June, July. That can't happen this time. I mean, please, that cannot happen. The governing body list that you give to State Bank of India, that governing body must remain with you till your application FCRA approval is renewed. Till that time, it will have to remain the same. If you try and make changes, I mean, it will just delay and complicate matters. Is there any age limit to be a signatory? Well, you have to be a major. You can't be a minor. Okay. Will there be online facility transfer money? Yes, there will be money. So I think that covers the concept of opening the bank account. Now, I raised the issue of interest coming into your existing designated bank account. What will happen for sale of assets? What happens when you get money, FC money, when you sell a vehicle or you sell some old equipment, or which is on your balance sheet? All that money will have to be deposited in State Bank of India, New Delhi. That cannot happen in any utilization bank account, and it cannot happen in what you have called the other FCRA bank account, which is your existing designated account. So all money will have to go into the designated account at New Delhi. Now, this is why, because of this particular reason and the interest on the fixed deposit, because obviously in the future, you're going to have fixed deposits, okay? If you have a utilization account with State Bank of India, wherever you are, then that branch will at least facilitate depositing the sale of assets or other money that comes out of miscellaneous income, etc., on FC into the designated account in New Delhi, because you cannot come to Delhi to explain to a manager. Okay, that's not possible. Today also, I know that there are a large number of problems when assets are sold, or you get back security deposit from a landlord, whatever it is, or for that matter, you may get an insurance claim. An insurance claim for a vehicle that got damaged or something. All that insurance claim is not local money. It is FC money if the vehicle was an FC asset. So the only way to deposit in the Delhi bank account is if you have a relationship with State Bank of India and a current account there, who will then that manager or that branch will facilitate a process of depositing it into the designated bank account. Secondly, thirdly, after this, you will make fixed deposits subsequently. When I raised the issue of fixed deposit in the State Bank of India in Delhi, they had a big smile on their face and said, well, we haven't reached that far as yet. We don't know what to do. But the fixed deposits initially, let me tell you, will have to be with State Bank of India, because it's only then that this interest will get credited into the main designated account, We'll have to see how the rules play out. And, once the rules come in, a lot of things could be eased out. I mean, they're definitely looking to ease out things because they've granted permission for receiving money. So you have to make sure that interest gets credited into the designated account at New Delhi at all times, no other place. All utilization bank accounts and this other FCRA account, which is your designated bank account, there can be no credit in that account at all. Zero credit. There'll be zero credit in that, except for transfer of money from the FCRA account in New Delhi. It will just be one-way traffic as far as credits into the utilization account. Please, I hope nobody has ever deposited money in the utilization account, because that's a clear violation and a reason for suspension. So entries will have to be done with designated account. So no credits. So interest has to be there in designated account in New Delhi. And obviously, to facilitate that process, initially fixed deposit would probably have to be done only with State Bank of India. If a branch of the society has the FCRA number other than the main account, will it be possible to renew the branch? If a branch of the society has an FCRA number other than the main account, will it be possible to renew the branch FCRA? Yes, it will be. I mean, it should be. We have cases like that. I don't see a problem at this point in time. But the government is trying to weed out a number of FCRA numbers. But at this point in time, they'll have to, I think they will have to review all these FCRA accounts. Can we have the same governing body members in another society, an FC account of another society? Yes, you can have governing body, same members. There's no issue on that. But obviously, we would like some change, between governing body of one society. I know the bishop or the provincial, heads all the economo, the treasurer heads, is in all the society. But I would say, I mean, frankly, my recommendation is that not more than 20% should be common. But we can play it out and see how it goes. Okay. So this is regarding opening of a bank account. Is it compulsory to have a utilization account? It's not compulsory, but it could facilitate the process as time goes by. It will make your life simpler. Yeah. Okay. After the opening of bank accounts, let's come to the other big issue, that is transfer of money. From 29th of September onwards, say evening, maybe some transfers got done on 29th. The notification came sometime later in the day, it was not there in the morning. You cannot transfer money from one society or one trust to another FCRA body, even if it's within your organization. So you've said if your branch is an FC, you cannot transfer money. Within the organization, sorry, from the head office to a branch, money FC transfers cannot take place. That's a strict no. So you cannot, there will be no transfers at all. And money will have to come into your account, which is the designated account in New Delhi, once it's opened, directly from abroad. There's no way, there's nothing else that can be done. I know we're dealing with some of the international larger organizations in Delhi, who will now be looking at, we'll be discussing with the different dioceses as to how we take it forward. We'll have to have a direct implementation from that particular organization in Delhi at different levels and dioceses. Or what will happen is that the nodal organization, which is based in Delhi or wherever, whether it's CBCI or anybody, will probably continue to do the monitoring aspect, will facilitate, getting reporting from you and then consolidate reports and send one report to, let's say, whether it's Miserio or KZD or whether it's the US or any of the organizations in Australia. But that discussions are on with the foreign donors. They are also concerned that there's a problem. And obviously, foreign donors do not want to create unnecessary files within the account, because that's a big problem for them. They would prefer to deal with one principal organization in Delhi, and then who would then be responsible for taking forward, the reporting and review of the implementation of program, because somebody has to be responsible. So that's how it is. So that is regarding opening an account. If it is a corpus fund, how can we change it without the permission of the donor? I don't understand what is that. If it's a corpus fund, if it's an FC corpus fund, it will continue to be a corpus fund. Okay, but all that I'm talking about, movement of money from the existing bank account to the New Delhi account and then coming back. So it will continue to be corpus, make a fixed deposit once it comes into State Bank of India, New Delhi, make a separate fixed deposit, it will be corpus fund. There's no issue on that. Then coming, as I said, transfers, there will be no transfers in the future. Now, when at this point in time, when I talk of transfers, I'd like to raise two issues. Number one, I hope you're not been transferring monies to self-help groups, because self-help group is doing a particular social program, and hence self-help groups are really not entitled to get FCRA money at all. What we would do is we would give it to individuals. They would make application for help, etc., and then they would use and put money into their self-help group. That was the way it was being managed. But please, there will be no money given to self-help groups. At this point in time, I'd like to mention that as per Section 2(1), which is an existing provision in the Act, which says who is a person under FCRA. And a person, when the amendment came, it says a person is an individual. Is an individual, is a HUF, is an association of person, society, or a Section 8 company. And the word there is it includes. So it doesn't mean that the person is. It includes. It includes an individual, which means that if any priest or religious is getting money, you have to make sure that your documentation is proper. Otherwise, that transfer of money or payment of money from the diocese or the social center to the individual should not be construed as a transfer of money. This also brings me to the point, let's say some of our priests are getting mass stipend from abroad, okay, and directly into the bank account. If you're getting mass stipend from abroad directly into individual bank account, that's an FCRA violation. Okay. The only way to beat that is that if you file a tax return and show it as an income and pay tax on it. That's it. But you can't go get mass stipend from abroad and not file a tax return and pay tax on it. Now, that's a clear violation of FCRA. So that's why mass stipend, any money coming gift from abroad will get covered. You can say I'm a gift. If it's coming, a gift is coming from a lineal ascendant or descendant, then it's okay. But the gift from an outsider and on which you don't pay tax, then that income tax, and I sort out of tax, it's income tax, then you are violating the FCRA rules because individual is covered. Same way, when the diocese or the institution gives money, you can give mass stipend and it will be debited to a mass stipend account in the books of account. Which brings me to the point that your documentation has to be virtually watertight. You can't make a mistake there. Because if the watertight, if it's not watertight, there'll be a problem. Mr. Rajan mentioned in his address before me that there is a need to address and develop human resources. That's an absolute key. You have to develop what Mr. Rajan said, human resources. And the one human resource that you need to develop is the accountant's position. You need good accountants who will understand what work you are doing and whom you should listen to. Let him ask, encourage him to ask questions, him or her to ask questions, and provide the answers to them. Because those accountants are the people who are going to help you, who are working for you, who will help you to ensure proper documentation. For example, if you have, I think it was Greenpeace who got into trouble, or was it the other one? I think maybe Ford Foundation, one of these big ones, or maybe Amnesty International. They got into trouble because the admin cost was more than 50%, and because they had not discussed with the accountants how to debit expenditure. So that was the problem that arose there. So that covers the issue of transfer of money. Make sure that when you pay our priest or our religious sister's money, it is paid for a purpose. That means it is either a stipend or it's your monthly pocket money, whatever you get. That should be documented and you need to sign for it. And that should be documented accordingly, entry passed in the books of account. Then let's come to the next big one. That's the administration expenses. Administration expenses, the limit was 50%, and that has been brought down to 20%. Why 20%? Why not 25? Why not 30? That I think is not relevant. They've decided on 20%. Let me tell you these rules. This issue of 20%, decision was virtually taken in February 2019, last year. February 2019, it was already discussed. It was being brought down to 20, 25%. So that was a decision taken last year. It's taken them more than a year to implement this particular proposal. Bringing money all into one bank account, also decision was taken last year. If you remember, they had introduced the concept of PFMS banks, and people had to change banks, etc. Then they extended the purview of different PFMS banks. These are decisions which were taken last year. It's taken some time for them to pass the legislation and bring it in now, but now they have done it. So then we come to administration expenses, which is now 20%. Now, administration expenses is not expenses as what you may understand. Salary, all salary is not administration expenses. You need to understand what is administration. Administration expenses has been defined, and administration has been defined under Section 8, read with the relevant Rule 5. Section 8, read with Rule 5. So that is what administration expenses is. Now, that brings me to the point, if that is administration expenses, then what is program expenses? What is program? Now, program expenses obviously not defined, but admin is defined. So whatever is not in admin will be program expenses. So how will you understand what is program expenses? The only way for you to understand program expenses is to go back to the original constitutional document, which is your memorandum of accession of the society or the company, which is the objects clause, or the objects clause in the trust deed. You have, I don't know how many people of you read that memorandum of accession or the trust deed. I don't know whether that's even read, but that is a document which you need to read every year at least 3-4 times now, because that is the document. If you've done a cut, copy, paste job in forming a society or a trust, there are going to be problems. Okay, so there can never be a cut, copy, paste job. Every society, like every individual, is a unique person, and that needs to be done in a unique manner. That may need amendment, but that will be done at your local level, which you will have to see whether it needs to be done or not to be done. But you need to now, please, after you've completed this webinar, go back and read. Take out that memorandum of accession, which is a signed copy, because you have to file a photocopy of a signed document. Let me tell you. The FCRA certificate which you will upload for renewal will have to be a document which is absolutely crystal clear. It cannot, if you say, it's a little smudged here or a little light, your renewal is not going to take. And they want a crystal clear document. The memorandum of accession, the trust deed that you're going to file front and back of every paper page will have to be a crystal clear document, probably notarized also. But it needs, if it's smudged or not clear, your renewal is not happening. That's a given today. We can share that with you. I mean, that will not happen. So you need to make sure that your documents are crystal clear. All documents will be uploaded in PDF, not even in JPEG files. So similarly, when you hand over to State Bank of India, they need to be very clear documents, because they will scan and send it to Delhi. And even the scanning, if that is not done properly, your bank account in New Delhi will not be open. So then going up and down, get it right the first time. So in administration expenses, this brings me, as I said, you need to read the object clause. What are you? What type of organization are you? The type of organization is written in your FCRA certificate. What is the type of organization you're either undertaking a definite, the word there is definite, a definite cultural, economic, social, educational, or religious program. So when I raise the issue of being a mass stipend, etc., why? Because being a religious person, you're covered under this definition of religious. And religion is also covered under the Tax Act separately. It's not part of charity. That you should please understand. Religion is not part of charity. So you, under FCRA, see what you are, okay? Whether you're social, educational, and religious. I know everybody got religious, but you can only work within that particular sector. If it's only social and religious, then only social. Obviously, education will not be there. That means the school will not be there. You can argue that, okay, it can be Balwadi, the non-formal education. Agreed, there's not an issue there. After linking what type of organization you are, then you have to open the Income Tax Act, Section 2 within bracket 15. Section 2 within bracket 15, defined in 2009, when Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister. The definition, the entire charitable exercise moved from application of money to how you get money. And there it has been defined, charitable purpose includes, there's just 7, education, medical relief, relief for poor, conservation of environment, which includes your watershed, wildlife, fauna, all that, yoga, and includes maintenance of monuments of national importance, or religious monuments of national importance, and general public utility. So these are 7. And you have to fall within the 6, the first 6 which I have mentioned, not the general public utility. Which means medical relief, I'll just repeat again. It will be education. It will be, where is education? In tax and in FCRA. It will be medical relief under income tax. Medical relief is not there in the FCRA, but there is social programs. Then you have got conservation of environment, which is again the social program. Yoga, again, you can put it under social program, maybe part of education if it's there, you can try and justify. So that's how it is. And then you have maintenance of monuments, etc. Maybe some historical churches, which is recognized as by the, the architect center, locally, whatever it is. Like we have in Goa, we have definitely St. Thomas's Mount, etc. Those will be definitely recognized. So that is where your program will be. This leads me to the next point: is how do you prepare your accounts, and what is the type of income and expenditure account that you sign every year. If you are having your account now, that also brings me to the point: is I don't know how many of you actually see your income and expenditure and balance sheet, which is signed by auditors. If you have not been seeing it, please start seeing it, and definitely see it this year. The time, you need to make sure that it's in order. If you are signing an income and expenditure account with natural heads of account, that is salary, rent, telephone, conveyance, postage, travel, meeting expenses, newspapers, water charges. If that's the way your income and expenditure account is made, then my friend, all this will be taken as administration expenses under FCRA. Even if you're running a school, you're running a hospital, you're doing any relief of poor, social program, religious, very difficult to convince government there. And you'll have to argue it out. It won't happen the first time. You will be going pillar to post. So that means your heads of account cannot be natural heads. This brings us to the point that you need to sit with the auditor and explain to them, because they need to come on board now with this, to understand what is charity and what is a definite program. Charity under Tax Act and definite programs under FCRA both have to be brought together, and the income and expenditure account should be prepared accordingly. So what will be the broad category? This is all linked to administration expenses. I'm coming to that and linked to this amendment which took place. Okay, what will be the national head? What will be the heads of account in your income and expenditure account? It will be the 6 heads: education, relief of poor, medical relief, cultural. If you're doing, you could have a dance academy. You can, so many things you can have, and conservation of environment, all your watershed programs, and relief of poor. Relief of poor is not defined. Education has been defined. Medical relief, you all know what it is, more or less. Okay, so these will be the broad heads in the income and expenditure account that you need to make sure. Okay. There's a question: is there a provision to get a gift from a friend abroad? Of course, you can get a gift, but if it's a friend and it's coming to individually, then there's obviously going to be taxable if it's more than 50,000 rupees in a year in total. So that'll be taxable. What is the status of existing FCRA account? I've said it will be the other FCRA account. You need to maintain it. Don't close any account at this stage. So coming back to my point of administration expenses, your heads of account in the main FCRA will be that. These will be groups. Each of these groups will have a schedule to back it up. Within the schedule, you will have the heads of account like salary, printing and stationery, exam fees, etc. that you pay. Now, I will ask you the very simple question, and this is an amendment which we brought about in the administration cost. Whether it's a hospital, is all salary administration cost? No, it's not. And we had seen this problem way back 10 years ago, that this problem is going to come. And an amendment which the government agreed to was to take salary. If you read Rule 5 of FCRA, the last provision, it says, provided that direct expenditure incurred directly in the furtherance of objectives of the welfare-oriented organization includes salary of teachers, salary of doctors, etc., will not be administration cost. So the salary you pay to your teacher, salary you pay to your Balwadi workers, salary you pay to your field workers in the villages when you're doing relief programs, etc., that will be all program cost, and that will not come when the auditor signs the balance sheet. That will go under this particular head, relief of poor. And if you don't classify it under relief of poor, then you've got a problem. Because if you put it under admin, you're sunk. You'll literally have a very big problem. So where did I start? Let me come back to where did I start. Number one, administration expenses is not what you understand. It is as defined under Rule 5 of the FCRA Act. What is program cost, it is what is defined in your object clause of your society or your trust deed, or the object clause in the Section 8 company or Section 25 company award. That is your objectives. If you are implementing anything which is within that objectives, that will be program cost. That will not be salary. That will not be admin cost. Okay. With any amendment, just to come back, what about rent for an office building for a program? That's a good question. Office rent, office building, if it's the head office, that of rent for the office building will be administration for a program. If it's the office building in the field, you can argue that it is a program expenditure. But if it's your head office rent, that will be admin cost. So what is admin cost? Admin cost, which will get covered by this amendment of 29 September or 20%, will include the salary of all your account staff. If you have an accountant in the field, we'll argue, and you can argue successfully, that that is a program cost because it's in the field. But the accountant in the office, that will be admin cost. Audit fees will be admin cost. Legal and professional expenditure paid to advocates, etc., that will all be admin cost. Expenditure include for preparation of report, like for example, your annual report, all paid out if it's paid out FCRA money, that will be admin cost. Now, what happens to a report which you're going to prepare for a particular program? Then your document should be there. Printing charges for preparing report, program report with this particular title head and project number or program, whatever it is, which is again social program, that can be debited to a program cost. Like I'll come back to my example of of the broad heads of education. Printing and stationery, is that admin cost or is it program cost? If I'm doing printing and stationery and I'm running my hospital or school, then those answer sheets which the students use, at least before the COVID came, now it's all online. But the answer sheets they were using, that is educational expenses. That's not an administration cost. That is educational expenses. So educational expenses will have two components: personal, which is salary, and other costs, including repair, maintenance, or building of my school, repair, maintenance of my school building, repair, maintenance of my hospital building, repair, maintenance of my field office. These are all going to be program costs. Repair and maintenance of my head office, that is admin cost. Now, if within my head office, if I've got one floor or half an office, which is for program people who are sitting, then divide it. Then the painting, repair, maintenance of that office, take two bills. One bill which pertains to where the admin people are sitting, that will be admin cost. And the second will be program cost, which means now we are getting into the nitty-gritties of defining of accounting and budgeting. Okay, so you'll have to differentiate. Mobile telephone of a field worker will be program cost. Mobile telephone or telephone in your accountant's office or the executive director's office, that is administration cost. If our executive directors or directors are taking salaries, that will all be admin costs. Their travel will be administration cost. Now you can argue that okay, he went to the field, went to the field, then that, what do you call that, taxi hire cost or that petrol, diesel cost, for that day will go under program cost. But otherwise, everything, vehicle maintenance will be admin cost. Now, if I come back to my definition of admin cost and the FCRA, okay, the rule 5, which says it includes and the inward, etc. Now, if I'm running a hospital or I'm running a school, if I'm running a hospital, I have an ambulance. Repair, maintenance of the ambulance, program cost. Insurance paid for the ambulance vehicle, program cost. Repair, maintenance for my school bus, program cost. Insurance of my vehicle, school bus, program cost. Vehicle of administrator, admin cost. So each and every one will have to be divided. Okay, don't divide one bill into two parts. Please don't do that. If I have one bill, you'll have to debit it in one place. Don't try and split bills. Don't try and split salaries. That it's very difficult to convince somebody. Whatever, let me tell you, there are challenges which have come with the amendment, but it's not Herculean. Just try and keep your life simple. If you're allocating salaries of program people to different departments, don't divide 20%, 30% of this month. No. You understand, okay, 1 month salary will go to program A, second month salary goes to program B, third month salary will go to admin. That's possible if it's an administrative function. So keep life simple. Don't try and divide monthly. Don't bring in too much of transparency. That's also risky. But just try and keep your life simple. So that's how administration costs will be defined. All the salary, wages, travel of your governing body members and the management of the organization, all that will be admin costs. It also says all expenses towards hiring of personnel for management of the activities of the persons and salary, wages of or any kind of remuneration paid to them, including cost of travel to such personnel, will be admin cost. Okay. Now we come to the question is what is the designation we are giving to our people? If I'm calling a project director, if I'm calling the person program director, that is admin cost. So what are we going to do? We'll have to relook at designations. My program coordinator is admin cost because he's the coordinator. See the definition, the word there is directly incurred by the welfare-oriented organization. If it's directly incurred, which means the person's salary has to be person who's involved in the field, like my field worker. So you'll have to relook at your designation. Avoid program director, that's admin. Avoid program coordinator, program managers. These are all administration costs. You'll have to exit or change these definitions, these designations. What will you use? You'll have, I don't know. I mean, it could be program facilitator. I'll just take this to keep the throat going. You'll have to do either program facilitator, program implementer, senior program implementer. We'll have to go senior, additional program implementer, additional field outreach worker. So you'll have to rethink. And all these classifications will come from that object clause. You'll have to read every object clause and see what is going to be used in my books of account. Because whatever is in the object clause of the trustee will have to come into the books of account. That will be the new heads of account to define object. Otherwise, you're going to get it. This also brings me, if I'm going one step back now, the issue is my budgeting. When I submit programs to KZD, to Missouri, or to any of my American, European donors, even the EU. I mean, EU also has realized today that there is this problem with this amendment which has come. So your program nomenclature will have to be to define and show that it's a social program, an FCRA educational program, is it a cultural program, or is it a religious program? Those 5 heads. So if it's a social program, you can't have those long sounding names, which we have been seeing in many of the institutions. Those long sounding names will not work. You will have to, the lesser you write, the better it is when it comes to names. Fit the name according to what is approved in your FCRA and what is as per section 2 within bracket 15 of the Income Tax Act. That will be the heading, which will be relief for poor, as I said, education, medical relief, and that's how you'll get across away from this 20%, which is really draconian. 20% of administration cost is of the foreign contribution received in that year, plus you can argue interest earned on FC. That is an argument which you can take, and I think you will succeed on that. So that is some of the admin costs. The other administration costs are consumables like electricity and water, telephone, postal charges, repairs to premises, transport and travel, printing charges, the travel of all of your governing body members. So now these, as I said, are both program costs as well as admin costs. You will have to take the call in when you make a budget. Budgeting can no longer be the way you did and then finally 10% toward administration. That is not going. That should not happen. You will have to be specific and define. My travel for going to the field will be a program expenditure. My travel going to meet somebody in the office or getting some approval, that will be an administration cost. So please discuss this with your accountant. What about salary of accountant and domestic worker? Admin cost. Accountant is very clear. Your human resource is very clear. Repairs, fuel for the project. There's no blanket. If it is for example, let me give you an example. If I'm hiring a tractor to ferry mud or to take my workers from one place in the field level, the repair and maintenance of that tractor is a program cost. Okay, it may be a vehicle, but it's a program cost. If I'm taking with a, you take some other vehicles which are running in the field level, uh, some vans, etc., that will be program cost. But if I'm running it in my head office, it will be admin cost. And you must show certain amount of admin cost unless you pay it from local. That will mean that one thing you should try and build up local resources, so a substantial money can be paid at least like for example salaries of accountants, etc., repair maintenance of building. If that can be paid from local, that will make your life much more simpler. Okay. So that is regarding administration cost. Rent of premises, etc., is all administration cost. Well, will any amendment before 1417 affect at this time? Yes, all amendments. Law is as on date. Okay. Uh, Another provision in administration costs is provided that expenditure incurred on salaries or remuneration of personnel engaged in training or for collection or analysis of field data and association primarily engaged in research. So collection of data, personnel engaged in training, this is exempt under administration cost at this point in time. Our understanding is that the definition of administration cost is going to be amended in the rules. That is probably on the cards. It will. And I think this particular issue of training, capacity building they will ensure that it is part of administration expenditure. So again, you'll have to rethink your program completely. Training, capacity building will be administration costs. So what will really be out is as the second provision, which is there, salaries to doctors, salaries to teachers, which will expand salary to my field workers. That will be program costs and similar things like that. So any travel to the office 20 kilometers away, admin or program. Travel to office would be admin cost, obviously. If it's 20 kilometers away or 5 kilometers, not relevant, it is administration. So this is with regard to administration cost. From there, we move to the next part, that every governing body member must have an Aadhaar card. Without that, the renewal will not happen. Without that, the authorized signatory also needs an Aadhaar card. That will, your account will not get opened. And this is something which is very specific to Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The name on your Aadhaar card should be exactly the same on your PAN card. Spelling, space between the 2 words or 3 words, whatever it is, the spelling should be exactly the same. The sequence should be the same. If there's a change, if there's a problem there, then you're going to have a problem in opening the bank account, and you probably have a problem in renewal of your FCRA. So at this stage, if you take one document as the correct document, whether it's Aadhaar or the PAN, and make sure that your name on the Aadhaar card and the PAN card is in the same sequence and has the same spelling. Also, father's name in your PAN card and in the Aadhaar card, if the father's name is there, should be the same. If there's a discrepancy in the name, this is not going, there will be a problem. Probably the FCRA will not get renewed. This will be a very big challenge. I mean, we've handled a case where, the name was different in the organization. The bank account got opened, A and B got transposed as B and A, and the FCRA is not being renewed. It's not being renewed because of change. We've had the name change. In the meantime, there are amendments which have come. So all these issues will have to be addressed before you make an application for renewal and before these documents are placed before the SBI in New Delhi for opening the bank. Okay. Repairs fuel for the project, that is program cost. Okay. Now, besides that, we've discussed any questions on this day. If somebody wants to raise his or her hand, we are open for that. I know we have 315 people, but we can take a hand, I'm sure. It's not a problem. If somebody wants to put a hand up, we'll take that. Okay. Another very important clause which has come about, which is linked, is in the Income Tax Act, which came in February and March. And that's a killer amendment which has come, and that gets linked to your FCRA. It gets linked to your PF and everything. What they have done in the Income Tax Act, which is the amendment which has come, if you violate any law, then your charitable status under income tax can be or will be cancelled. If you lose your charitable status under income tax, it is like a killer, because the tax is levied on the balance sheet, not on your income and expenditure account. And the balance sheet of an organization, maybe 50 years old, 40 years old, all those assets will be a tax of 30% plus penalty, 100% plus interest. So it is really, we can't even imagine what will be the problem there. So what are the laws that are frequently violated? One is the PF Act. You will have to handle and make sure that when an inspection takes place of PF and ESI, there is no adverse comment on that, please. Because if you've noticed, in the current 26 AS form, which is of income tax, the government has permitted all other incidental people to make inputs onto the 26 AS form. So if you have a violation FCRA, that will be put on the 26 AS form of income tax. So the violation will get intimated to income tax, and a violation of FCRA is a show case for cancellation of 12. And then there's a whole legal process which gets institutionalized. First of all, FCRA gets suspended, etc. So that's a different game altogether. You cannot violate any law. PF is applicable from day one, which means that if I'm doing daily wages, what do? Do I take the personal contractor? Yes, you can. So this daily wages concept, which we are all doing, I'm putting up this little I'm doing a whitewashing here, I'm getting my toilet repaired or kitchen repaired, and I'm paying daily wages. My dear friends, that's a strict no, because daily wages requires compliance of provident fund. So it is better to do a contract. You can do a contract with 10 workers. Nothing to prohibit you. And there'll be no TDS up to 30,000 rupees or one bill or a lakh for a year. The only thing is you have to deduct TDS. Now you can say, oh, he's a poor person and he doesn't have a PAN number. So what? You can facilitate him to get a PAN number. He has an Aadhaar card. She has an Aadhaar card. Domestic workers have got Aadhaar card. Or get the Aadhaar card made and get a PAN number. You will then deduct 2% TDS. Your life will be absolutely peaceful. Don't violate the TDS provisions. So don't violate PF, because I'm telling you, the trajectory in which they are moving, the government is moving to penalize and levy taxes and cancellation. Cancellations will not happen just like that. The process is on, and the cancellation process is being facilitated. And if you're not wise, if you're going to violate, I've been doing it for so many years, it was 6 months, all that. What I was doing for all these years is not relevant. It is what is relevant is now. PF and ESI, please don't violate. If you're doing daily wages, don't do that. Give the person a contract, take a bill. You say he doesn't have a bill, he can't read or write. I agree on all those issues. You make the bill, take his Aadhaar card, from the Aadhaar card, take name, address, get his PAN card. You'll have to do a lot of facilitation. To protect your institution, I think we have reached a stage where you have to facilitate a lot of things. Get the person to put his thumb impression and make a payment, deduct 2% TDF if it's more than 30,000 in one bill, or more than a lakh in a year, which really doesn't happen. So there won't be any TDS. But deduct the TDS, deposit if it's more than 30, no, nothing is going to be lost, and you'll be safe and secure. Get invoices. Remember, pro forma invoice is not an invoice. It has to be an actual invoice. So do it that way. The other issue is, again, on documentation, sit with the accountants and do it. So FCRA violations, PF violations. Another issue is in education is the Right to Education Act. Now, if you have a minority certificate, the case of Supreme Court is there to protect you, that you are exempt from the right to education. But if you don't have a minority certificate, then you'll have to comply with the right to education, because even if you violate that, that will come on 26 years. 26 years, as you will notice, is giving details of cash deposits, is giving details of fixed deposits, is giving details of property bought and property sold, TDS deducted, not deducted, and the other provision is TDS. So 26 AS will be, whatever you want to call it, it'll be an entire, it's like a gospel, the entire thing from beginning to the end, book of Matthew to book of Revelation, will be right through. Just make sure that you don't violate anything. You don't violate in the New Testament, don't violate it here also, and you'll be safe and secure. Nothing to be, get paranoid or feel insecure, it will lead to, you need to step back and reflect that how do I need to comply? And when you comply in this, there will be no problem. Okay, so that's an issue which I mentioned to you with regard to compliance of the other provision. Because if you violate that, then to help out is going to be very difficult. The cost is going to be very, very high, because all these matters will go right up to High Court and it will literally kill an organization. The next issue I want to raise with you, especially now with opening the FCRA account, because many of our religious priests or the religious sisters are saying, I don't get any money. And some of our, some of the superiors or provincials are saying, but you are not getting any money, we don't need this FCRA account. So they've introduced a clause for surrender of FCRA. Don't surrender your FCRA. Please don't do that. Because when you surrender the FCRA and you make an application for that, they are mandatorily going to do an investigation into your account, FCRA account, right from the time you got registered for the first time. So if you were registered in 76, they will want every audited balance sheet signed from 76. Okay, you will have, I agree, under FCRA, the time limit is 7 years, but balance sheets are available. Okay, so balance sheets will have to be provided. That balance sheet will show what assets were bought, what was the land bought, what were the vehicles bought, and then they will open the entire history of that. Where did this land go? Where did this vehicle go? And levy taxation on that. And they will charge you an FCRA for violations. So do not surrender an FCRA account even if you are not getting anything. Get in 1 lakh of rupees in a year, good enough, but keep your FCRA going. Open the SBI account in New Delhi. Even like somebody made a chat, a chat on the chat that we have branch account. Sure you have, okay. Renew every branch account. Every FCRA branch you must renew. And if the bank is creating a problem, you'll have to argue it out and explain to State Bank of India. Let me give you an example. We have, some of our clients have 10 FCRAs, one in there, and we handle it. What you do is, obviously, it will be a unit. Let me give you an example. So-and-so ABCD school, okay, has an FCRA. ABCD Technical Institute has an FCRA. You will say the bank account will be opened. Obviously, I assume that your FCRA is in the name of ABCD school. So it will be ABCD school, unit of that society which has a PAN number. Because the school or that institution will not have a PAN number. PAN number for a society is only one. You can have any number of PAN numbers, but the PAN number, permanent account number under income tax, will only be one. So it will be unit ABCD school or XYZ dispensary, unit of so-and-so society. So because what will be the problem? SBI main branch will open one account. They will have all the PAN numbers. So when probably they're not even thought about it today. And the government didn't think about it when they wanted everyone to register with NITI Aayog to get, if you remember, 2-3 years back, there was a hue and cry on that. So they're probably not thought of it. So when SBI in New Delhi will see the same PAN number, they're going to say you can't open a bank account. But obviously, I can open a bank account if my unit name is unique. So my unit name has to be unique because the memorandum will be the same, the governing body probably will be the same, but every branch can have a different governing body, nothing to stop you. And the designated account will get opened. And you'll have to show it to your State Bank of India locally. They'll help you on the matter. Today, let me tell you, there's no intention to hinder working. State Bank of India will facilitate the process. They are genuinely taking a lot of interest in the matter. State Bank of India officers, they are also scared because they can't handle so many clients. 20,000, 25,000 accounts to be opened is a problem. Okay, so you'll have to make sure that you open all your FCRA accounts. Do not surrender an FCRA account. Now, why do I say that? God forbid you bought land. Let us say any of our churches, somebody gifted you the land, or you bought a land at a very cheap rate 20 years ago. It's still on your balance sheet. Okay, church was built on that, still on your balance sheet. FCRA balance sheet I'm talking about. Okay, that land and building will be taken over by government, and they are working on that. Let me tell you, why. If you notice, over the last 2-3 years, since 2014 onwards, when we had this renewal process, now it's 5 years, right? They're coming to 5 years. They have given repeated, facilities to renew FCRA. If it's cancelled, to reapply. Whoever has been cancelled, After 3 years, you can reapply for FCRA, apply for that because, and they are facilitating the process. You know, the government is wanting you to renew the FCRA for the simple reason they also don't want to take over the land and building because it's a hot potato. Okay, but the law is designed such that the land and building, whether it's a church, whether it's a school, whether it's a hospital, has to be taken over. That's how the law is designed. That's how the law is existing at the moment. So please don't surrender an FCRA at all. You may say there's too much of work, administration, headache. No, sorry. Whatever work, comply with it and follow. The other issue is don't say that, okay, this is being handled by my auditor. Then that's, you can't say that I'm living at home and the doctor in the hospital is giving me the medicine. That doesn't work. If you're living at home, then you have to take your own medicine. So if you're living at home and you're working at home, then you please maintain proper books of account. Don't say my auditor did this, because auditor is not required to do what he's doing it in goodwill. That's a different issue. But you must know exactly what you are doing and what he's telling you needs to be done. You need to be aware and facilitate the process of accounting and documentation. So, and when I talk of renewal, the provision has come in the amendment that you can surrender an FCRA. Don't do that. Renew the FCRA. And before you make your application for renewal in December, Jan, let's get in some FCRA in the current year. Maybe 1 lakh, 2 lakhs if you don't. Try and get somebody. I mean, people are putting on the chat, I've got a brother or so and so, some want to give me a. Put in an FCRA here, nothing to lose. The sister is transferred from Mumbai to Delhi, but the sister does not have the address of Delhi on the Aadhaar card. Can she open a saving account in Delhi SB? Yes, she can. Aadhaar card is there. That's a permanent address. And the local congregation will certify that this is the address here. She will be a volunteer. Who is a sister? Who is a nun? You're a volunteer. In simple language, you're a volunteer of a particular congregation or an association. And the congregation will certify that. Meet the manager, it will all happen. So that's not an issue at all. Okay. It took me 356 days to get a utilization account. If you open another in SBI, how long will it take? Very good question. That's a very valid question. It took me 356. You're lucky it was done within a year. That is the problem. But at this point in time, it is better to open it and comply. Now, when you open a utilization bank account, remember you cannot transfer money into that. You cannot transfer money into utilization bank account till it is approved by FCRA MHA. You cannot operationalize an account for which you have filed the relevant Form 6. So that is why when I began, we said that the existing FCRA account, which the government is calling the other FCRA account, should be retained, because that will facilitate movement of money from Delhi to your local place, wherever you are. And you can issue checks from there. You can do bank transfer. And another thing is, when we are discussing this bank transfer, etc., please reduce cash. I know in some of the places in Kerala, there's a lot of cash withdrawn and cash paid. Cash payments up to 20,000 rupees is a mix. We have, as professionals, we have said nothing should exceed 10,000 rupees. Less than 10 in cash is fine. You need pakka bills. Don't try and save money on this GST. Get a proper pakka bill. Today, look at your congregation, look at your diocese in a big way. These are large institutions, our dioceses and our institutions. And we have to look at it in that particular manner. Don't get involved. I'll save 12% GST. Don't do that. Get a proper bill, pay by check, pay by bank transfer, deal with people, and you'll be secure. Because today is the era of compliance, not only in India, it's across the world. And you may wonder whether this government is, unnecessarily creating problems. There's a different issue aspect of that. India was not a signatory to the Money Laundering Act, International Money Laundering Convention. India signed the Money Laundering Convention a few years back, not too long ago. Okay. And once we signed the Money Laundering Convention, there are lots of compliances which are required. When I appeared there, they said, Martin, I received a whole bag of money, a suitcase was found on the beach. I said, FCRA is not the place to sue a person. It's the Money Laundering Act. So that is why the compliances have gone up phenomenally. Same is happening under income tax. There are lots of meetings that take place between the international people who come in and, who say that, these are your requirements and the forms that are taking place. That's happening. The new Form 10, the Form 10B is, of course, currently the same, but there will be changes as the years go by because that's under discussion. We operate 2 FCRA accounts in one PAN. Is there any problem? I've said that. You can, as long as each of the FCRA accounts have a unique name, it will go through. Is it possible to change the members of governing body as we go for renewal? Yes, you can. Better to do this and make sure that those people remain on the governing body till at least 31st March 2022. Okay, so we've discussed the admin costs. We've discussed that you will not surrender FCRA account no matter what it takes. You'll have to push for it. The third issue is, the next issue is that the provision for suspension. You see, earlier your FCRA could be suspended for 6 months. Now that has been made to 1 year. And they don't need to give you any reason. Immediately, if they feel if there's a complaint against you, suspension. We have seen what has happened in Jharkhand branch. Suspensions have taken place, and that is, I'm sure, happening in the south also, and probably in Kerala. Some suspensions will take place. So you have to make sure that there's a watertight compartment. Your documentation is perfect. Accounts are written up to date. Now, this is another problem that we face, that our accounts in our institutions or in our diocese are not written up regularly. That must be done on a regular basis. Your bank reconciliation must be done regularly. Let me tell you, the government in FCRA office, they can open up your bank account in 5 minutes. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes to have the entire listing of all your transactions, debit, credit, everything. So you have to, if they know within 5 minutes sitting in New Delhi, no matter which part of the country you are, it is your responsibility to make sure that your books of accounts are written every day. Like Mr. Rajan says, that you need investment in human resources. Please have good accountants, have good software. If you're using Tally software, spend money, get a legal version. Don't use this pirated. Somebody will come and tell you, sister, father, I'll get you for 5,000 rupees and 4,000 rupees. Why you want to spend 15,000 rupees? No, don't do that. Grow up, use a legal version. It will stand you in good stead. You're talking of an institution. We're not talking of some, we don't want the institution to be hindered or become an invalid or something. We want everybody to be protected. So get good accountants, accounting on a day-to-day basis, move out of cash payment. Plus, we are told many times, he's a plumber, he doesn't have a PAN number, please. Today, everybody has a bank account. For whatever you may say about the government, they have opened PAN numbers with Jan Dhan accounts with everybody. You pay by bank, he doesn't have a checkbook, no problem. You pay by bank transfer. You do bank transfer. So there'll be no issue. So you have to make sure that, and don't withdraw large sums from FCRA. Since scrutiny has started, let me tell you, scrutiny has started with FCRA account. First, you only have income tax scrutinies. Now FCRA scrutinies have started. FCRA scrutinies at this point in time are for all the large institutions, but they have to do every institution within the 5 years. So that's going to happen. So you need to make, and the one pet question is, give full details of cash withdrawal. First of all, list out all the cash withdrawals, and then they come to the point, where did you pay the money? Whom did you pay? Because whom did you pay? Is it transfer? Remember what I said? Individual is also responsible for being FCRA compliant. Okay. In the 76 Act, up to 2010, individual was not there. It was an accession for 2 or more people. In 2010, individual became a FCRA person who could be covered, provided he was undertaking a definite religious, cultural, social, educational program. So be careful on that. Documentation is required. Any other questions? I think we've taken a lot of time. It's over 6, I think, Father Jason, I think we probably would be running out of time. But I've tried to cover, and I've covered everything. Person is the other amendment which has come. A public servant cannot be a member on your governing body. At least you can't pay him anything. So just make sure that no government servants or government of people are on your governing body. They can be, as unofficially invited for meetings, etc. That's fine. But you can't pay them anything, and you cannot, do anything. Have them officially in governing body. Another issue I'd just like to mention to you, since we are discussing this, when, let's say, the bishop or your provincial or somebody comes and you give him a personal gift, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 rupees, and it goes to him. Now bishop may go back to head office and put it back into his pocket. But in your books, I'm not saying don't pay them. You can go ahead and pay, no issues. But don't document it given to bishop for birthday or things like that. Let's not do all those issues. Keep it life simple, because a payment to a governing body member has to be reported to income tax in Form 10B. And that will come through in FCRA. They will want details of payments made to governing body members. They're not bothered whether it was birthday or what it was. They'll also tell you politely, why do you do this? Just show pay somebody else and let's have it. I'm not getting into further details of that, but we can do. Do we need to make some changes in NGO Darpan Niti Aayog in the context? I don't think so, because I think the Niti Aayog Darpan is not really functioning, so we won't have that. The settle of the trust stays abroad. Should she be there while renewal scrutiny? Well, I hope she's not on. She's not a governing. Is not on the board of trustees. Because if she's on the board of trustees, either she has to go or she'll have to be in India. I mean, otherwise your renewal will not take place. Okay. The income earned in overseas by a sister, will that transfer through FCRA account? Good question. That's from Jones Verghese. Income earned by overseas by a sister. By sister, I mean, I assume it's a religious sister. Now, if that religious sister is an Indian citizen, then and she remits money, then that's a local contribution. That's not FCRA money. But what sometimes our religious sisters do is that since they're living in the congregation in Rome, they give the money to the congregation there, the congregation pays the money to India. That remittance from the congregation, it may be that sister's personal money earnings, whatever it is. But the remittance from the congregation to India, that becomes an FCRA donation, because that congregation is not the individual sister. But the individual religious sister or the priest remits money who's an Indian citizen. I'm not talking of being an OCI and things like that. Holds an Indian passport, valid passport. And that person remits money to India. That's a local contribution. That's not FCRA money. Now, every time money is received from abroad, the banker would be phoning you to check out from where this money has come. Every time you make payments, large payment, at least 50,000 and above, you will be questioned. To whom are you making this payment and what is this purpose? That's the next thing that's going to happen. The bank will phone you up for payments made, especially if there are checks issued. If it's a bank transfer, those questions probably will not happen. But 100% questions will be asked by the banker, which will be now State Bank of India in Delhi. So if you have a State Bank of India in locally, they will obviously get in touch with the local branch to get a reply to you. And that is why I want you to check your email IDs, because every remittance that's going to come into SBI New Delhi will be questioned. They will know the source, but they will want a confirmation from you. And I'm sure you're facing it, whether it's with Federal Bank or South Indian Bank or whatever bank, syndicate bank. The branch manager will be phoning, please tell me from where this money has come, what is the purpose. So if you have a utilization account with State Bank of India, that linkage will be there. They'll facilitate the process. And you need to check your email IDs and replies to that. Remember, when money is remitted from abroad, the bank can only hold it in suspense for 24 hours. 48 hours if it gets pushed, but 24 hours is the maximum. After that, they have to send the money back. So there needs to be a close liaison with the banker, which will be your other FCRA account, which is your existing designated account. Keep checking your FCRA, your email IDs regularly. Attend to these queries that will come from the bank. You'll have to tell every foreign donor that before you remit the money, to please advise you by email or get a donor letter. So every remittance. Now when I began, I said you should as a recommendation, have a utilization account with State Bank of India locally, so that they can get you this certificate, because you need evidence that from where the money is come. Today, when I'm sitting in Delhi, any of our clients, they get us a credit advice from the branch, from the branch, that this money came for whatever purpose. They say grant, donation, whatever it is. How are you going to get it from Kerala from Delhi? It's not going to happen very easily. There's no time. It's the local branch who will facilitate the process. You will have to tell the local branch, listen, this money has come in SBI in New Delhi. Give us a credit advice. Get the credit. You'll have to get credit advice from New Delhi. That will have to happen. People have not thought of it, but these are documentation which is required, which means that you need every document from the donor and get simple letters from the donor. We are pleased to give you a grant of $10,000 or $100,000, whatever it is. Don't put down too much. Please, no, don't put. We don't want to know that this is for 1,000 masses. Forget it. They're giving a donation to you, keep it for that. I'm giving a donation for human rights program. Please, human rights is a strict no. No human rights. That's asking for trouble. So have simple letters coming from your donor. You may whatever correspond on the telephone, that's a different issue. But a grant letter should not be more than 4 or 5 lines. We are pleased to give you a grant for your organization based, and give us a receipt for that. Simple. And that will go through very easily. Okay. Thank you. I hope any other questions, I'll be pleased to take any of the questions at this point in time. When you open another utilization account in SBI, should we maintain the early utilization account in another scheduled amount, in another scheduled bank? To continue using. Don't react. An amendment comes, don't start reacting. Let's hold the accounts, keep your life simple. It means a little extra work, little more accounting work, but just have it. Can a president of society be paid on a regular basis? Sure, can be paid, provided the payment is equivalent to the person's experience and qualifications. Because you have to, meet the test under the Income Tax Act, under Section 11, under Section 13(1). So that's possible. But I'm only giving you the reply on far as the Taxation Act. You got to check your own memorandum and rules and regulations. Is your rules and regulations permitting you to pay a governing body member or the president or an office bearer? If there's a prohibition in your rules and regulations, then the payment to president is not possible. So you need to first of all, read your rules and regulations. As far as the law goes, there's not a problem as long as it is reasonable. Okay, whether society PAN and individual's PAN both are required? Sure, yes, it is required. When you open another utilization account, it should be maintained. Yes, I've answered that. What about empowerment as there is no human right? Empowerment in what way? I mean, empowerment of women, sure. I mean, empowerment, I know we use these words, empowerment and human rights. And we use justice a lot. That's again, the word justice is not really appreciated. So empowerment would be capacity building, accessing government schemes, simple terms. Let's not use the high sounding terms of human rights, empowerment, and justice, social justice. These are terms which are going to get you into problems. So let's stay out of that. Empowerment, what is empowerment? Capacity building, facilitation, things like that. Use that type of nomenclature. Should you open 2 FCRA accounts in local SBI? I really don't know what you mean by that. How will you open 2 FCRA amounts in local SBI? I don't think that's possible. Unless you're asking for 2 branches. Yes, if they're different branches with separate FCRA, that's possible. How will the money from NDMB be transferred to local utilization bank account? That will be by bank transfer. You will give an intimation by email to Delhi, or if you're having an SBI locally will facilitate the process. And that's why I said, have a utilization account with SBI. If you have your existing, what we're calling the other FCRA account, you can ask them to, call for money from SBI Delhi, but probably it will not happen that way. You will have to be having instructions to SBI in New Delhi. To start with, you can have probably get checkbooks of 100 and deposit, but basically it will all be bank transfers. So I think that will be addressed in the rules. That should get addressed in the rules. How will money from NDMB be transferred to local utilization bank account? First of all, it is never a local utilization. If it's a local and you mean local contribution, that's a violation. So we need to start using the correct terminology. If your question is how will money move from NDMB transfer to FC utilization account, that will be by bank transfer. So when you talk also, I would suggest start talking in the language which they are used to receive. Can we receive money in the existing bank account till 31/3/2021? It can be, you can receive in the existing designated bank account up to the date on which you open with the account in State Bank of India, New Delhi, or 31st March, whichever is earlier. Okay. And if you're going in for renewal in May 2021, this account needs to be opened in New Delhi before 31st of Jan 2021.